It's just so special for such our club, mate, our club.
Lastly, after 57 years of pain, it's coming home.
Hey there, TJ here, and welcome to Yeahthedees, where I am going through our Week 1 of finals game against Sydney, which unfortunately was a loss, 91-69, on Friday the 2nd of September at the MCG. Yeah, unfortunately we didn't get the job done. Sydney out-hunted us, out-pressured us, and were definitely the better side on the day, despite a few crappy things happening throughout the game. Not really what we were expecting first time out. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch the game live, so I could only watch it through KO. I was interstate for work, and I'm going to be interstate again for this week, unfortunately. So I'm absolutely spewing that I'm not going to be seeing these games live. Hindsight, not too bad. I think we've ended up on the better side of the draw now, so that's a little bit of a blessing, I think. I think we match up a bit better definitely against Brisbane, who have smashed the last four or so times that we've played them, and Geelong, who, despite losing to them this year, beat them 3 times last year. So I think we match up a bit better against those sides than we do against the hunt and chase sides like Collingwood and Sydney. It'll be an interesting round next week, but let's start off with the teams. So the only real lineup change was Christian Salem in for Jake Bowie. Jake Bowie very, very stiff after playing a very fine game against Brisbane. Possibly he'll make his way back in this week. The Sydney side only had the one change as well with the subs, so they pretty much went in unchanged from the week before. Christian Petrarca and Tom Sparrow both playing milestone games, 150th and 50 respectfully. Let's get chatting about the game. Started off pretty well. I thought we got a bit of reward for our effort. We were definitely a little bit more on top of them in the first quarter. I was happy with the 10-point margin at that stage. Sydney were harassing us and getting around, and then got the first goal of the second quarter and felt like we were on a bit of a run, but then those crappy free kicks to Buddy Franklin happened, and we had 3 50-metre penalties that ended up in goals for this game. So in this game, we gave away the exact amount of 50 goals from 50-metre penalties that we had for 22 rounds of footy for the year. So it just showed how undisciplined we were, how we got sucked into the game, how much we had a lack of composure, and that sort of seemed to come through the screen a little bit, especially towards the end of the second quarter. Once those sort of bumps happened, we felt like we were on top of them early on, and then once they got a sniff, they got a couple of goals in a row, and it happened both times those 50s happened, and then we gave one more away in the last quarter after Harms hit the bloke in the chest a bit late. Definitely a 50-metre penalty. He hit him too late, and that's just undisciplined play from James Harms there. He tried to be physical, and I'm not too fussed by it, but it was a shame that it gave away a goal and kind of sucked all the momentum out of the game. We had another 3 or 4 shots on goal in that last quarter and couldn't convert any of them, couldn't flick any momentum back. And basically from this run here from Tom Papley and this run here, we just couldn't get back into it, and it was really deflating to watch. The writing was on the wall quite quickly. I felt like when we got the first 3 goals of the third, it was like this was the closest thing to a bang 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 we've felt in a while, but they just couldn't hold on to it. They just giving away some crappy free kicks, and just like the umpiring was terrible. Yeah, but good teams win regardless of umpiring. In the all finals games, umpiring was contentious in all games, but I think if you look at the Fremantle and Western Bulldogs game, Fremantle were crucified in that game and still were able to come out from the win and win from 41 points down. So that's the battle sometimes in the game. You're not going to get the rub of the green all the time. You can't rely on it. Umpires are going to make mistakes here and there, and some teams are going to score from them. But to not be able to wrestle back momentum was really disappointing. And I think maybe a lot of that had to do with Christian Petrarca getting injured early in the game. And I think there was quite a few players of ours that aren't anywhere near 100%. And, maybe expecting some players to be 100% at the end of a long season is maybe not realistic. But, Dogger was definitely hampered. Max Gawn is probably still dealing with some foot issues. Christian Petrarca was definitely struggling after that corky, but still played a lot, although a lot of his midfield time was taken by Tom Sparrow, who I felt had a really good second and third quarter. Jake Melksham's got knee issues. Bailey Fritsch had issues going in. Charlie Spargo had the hit to the throat, which has put him in hospital for this week. So that's like a third of the team that is definitely hampered in this game, and we only went down by 22 points. So there's a lot of throwing the baby out of the bathwater because we didn't win this game, and I think that's a bit of an overreaction because we're still good on paper. Like, Sydney had a wild game, and it was very interesting that there was some similarities from the game during the year. So we had a really low score off turnover game against them earlier this season, and that happened again. So our two lowest scores from turnover happened both against Sydney. So they're definitely playing us a slightly different way. They have a bit of pace. They are a great team that sacrifice roles to do things. So they were letting us sort of win the contested possession and then pressuring us really, really hard. Now, the pressure index was high, but ours was only 10 points less than theirs throughout the average of the game. So it shows that we were close to the level as well, but what we weren't as good at was our cleanliness with disposal. And, Melksham had a shocker. He's been great the last 6 or 7 weeks, but he just had an absolute shocker that day and could barely hit an effective disposal, let alone keep his feet. There were just fundamental errors throughout. Like, every player had errors throughout the game except for maybe Clayton Oliver. Clayton Oliver ran at about 82% disposal efficiency, which is one of the highest disposal efficiencies he's probably had for this year, if not the highest. So God would be stuffed without him, and it is an absolute pleasure to watch this bloke play footy for the D's. He's easily the best player I've ever watched, and really, really kept us in it. He kicked 2 goals, plenty of clearances. He just had a phenomenal game. Stephen May had a great game as well, despite the 2 free kicks. Both of them were pretty rubbish. I really hope Buddy Franklin gets fined for that first one. And then the second one, I really hated that he sort of initiated contact with Stephen May. Yeah, Stephen May sort of leaned into it. But, that's footy. We should be able to have collisions like that and do things like that. There was, some just real awful umpiring, but the good teams get around that and the good teams win past that. So that's pretty much my thoughts on the game. Sydney were the better team for the overall day. Because they executed on the fundamentals better than us. They were cleaner, and they took the most of their opportunities when they had half chances as well. I bloody hate Tom Papley. He shits me up the wall and has the most punchable face in footy. But Jesus Christ, he executes and was able to kick goals and really be the barometer for that team, as much as I hate that word. Because he's usually a player like that for us, or a Petrarca, or even a Bailey Fritsch, and it just wasn't able to really happen with the side. And I think that's because I reckon at least a third of our team, probably 6 players or so, were really hampered by injuries, and that didn't help as well. But you only play the team that gets put out on the park, and that's that. So that's my thoughts on the game so far. So stats throughout the game were actually pretty even. We got enough of the ball. We had more handballs, slightly less kicks. Inside 50s basically even, but there you see the 4% difference there in disposal efficiency, and they were a little bit more efficient inside 50. We had more free kicks, but by God, it did not feel like it. Had a lot more hit outs. Even though Tom Hickey had a really good game in the ruck, centre clearances were pretty much matched, and clearances around the ground were also fairly even. Stoppage clearances just a little bit higher. But we beat them a lot in contested possession, and then they were pressuring us around the ball. That really affected our disposal and cleanliness of disposal, unless your name's Clayton Oliver. But more time in possession, but we were also a bit slower with the ball. It wasn't really a typical Melbourne game that we like to see. Thought the brand was back on track against Brisbane, but then we come out and play like Brisbane against Sydney, which was just really, really disappointing. It's a tackle difference of 84, really high numbers here. So Sydney averaged 64 and we averaged 55, and they got 20 more tackles and we had 15 more than our averages. So that's finals footy just there with how more intense it is. The tackle inside 50 count is just obscene. Look at that, 25 tackles inside Sydney's forward 50 when their average is 12.3. Yeah, that's just the difference there. So player stat for the D's, I was talking about disposal efficiency earlier. Clayton Oliver with 82%, Salem, Spargo, Ben Brown, Lever, Petty, all being very, very good with their disposal. Tom Sparrow had a decent game as well as Stephen May. Stephen May has been turning it over a little bit lately, but he had 16 effective kicks out of his 21, which is pretty solid. He also had 16 intercepts, which I believe is a finals record, 12 contested possessions. He just gave Buddy Franklin an absolute bath, and that's why Buddy had to try and work out other ways of getting the footy. Clayton Oliver with 10 score involvements, Max Gorn with 6. I felt like Max had an okay game. It wasn't anything too flash. Yeah, he could be a bit better with his kicking, especially trying to have shots from 50. He just seems a bit off with that lately, so I'm still blaming the spindonitis or whatever it's called in his foot. Bailey Fritsch had a really good run at one point. He kicked 3 goals for the game. In terms of meters gained, Stephen May with the most, but yeah, that comes from all of his intercepts and kick-ins. 21 kicks out of 23 disposals, just shows how much he's using his foot. Harmsy, yeah, look, tried his guts out and played an okay game. The hit that gave the 50 and that goal that sort of put the nail in the coffin towards the end of the game affects the way that people view his game. Angus Brayshaw, we didn't get enough out of him. He was playing a negating role on Chad Warner and they kind of broke even, I felt. Jack Viney also, for whatever reason, didn't really have his regular impact in the game. Christian Salem also not quite having that impact. I thought Harrison Petty was pretty good. Neil Bullen and Rivers, Hibbard, yeah, not really getting there too much. And yeah, Jacko had probably his worst game for the year. But, you know, the rumours going around is that he's considering signing a 2-year deal with the D's. He's a really solid player when fit, and I would really love him to be staying at the side for the next 2 years, despite all these rumours about us getting Brodie Grundy. So anyway, let's get into the coaches' votes for the game. The coaches gave Stephen May the perfect 10, which I was a little surprised about. I thought that John Longmuir might have given Luke Parker the 5 votes for them getting the win, but gave it to Stephen May, so that was pretty good. Luke Parker did have a wild game for them, as did Rowbottom and Lloyd, who kicked a few. So that means that the coaches saw it pretty much like this, with Stephen May and Luke Parker both at the top, and then everything else evening out 2-3 votes each. Onto my votes now, and I gave 1 vote to James Harms. Thought that he was, tried really hard. This was actually really difficult to give out the 6 votes for this one. Gave 2 to Tom Sparrow for picking up the slack in Christian Petrarca's absence in the middle. I thought he was pretty good throughout that second and third quarter. Didn't execute a couple of handballs and some fundamentals here and there, but I thought he was pretty good when the heat was on. Harrison Petty is just a really, really solid defender. He's one of my favourite players to watch, and I felt that he had a pretty good game on the night. Bailey Fritsch kicking 3 goals, really our only active forward down there that looked dangerous. He's just an absolute jet, and hopefully his knee's okay for this coming week. Clayton Oliver gave the 5 votes. Kept us in the game. Just an amazing display from him in the midfield. And I gave Stephen May the 6. Despite him giving away those couple of free kicks to Buddy, he gave him an absolute bath. Buddy Franklin is one of the best players to ever play the game. And Stephen May's kept him goalless twice now in the last 2 times that they have played. So he's in his head. He's got his number, and one of the greatest games ever from a defender. Unfortunately, that I couldn't get the job done for us. So that's updated the leaderboard with Clayton Oliver ahead with 71 points ahead of Christian Petrarca. Unfortunately, Christian getting that injury sort of put him out of the vote getting, because he wasn't really too effective in that game. And then we've had some shuffling around with Stephen May and Bailey Fritsch popping, changing places towards that top 10. Just going to jump into the AFLW now, and the girls got 2 wins on the trot now. A very low scoring game for the curtain raiser for the final. But the girls were able to get the job done, which was pretty good. North Melbourne very accurate, kicking 4 goals for the game. It was a bit of a sloppy tackle fest, and we were very inaccurate, but we were able to just get enough points, kicking 3-8 for the game, with Alyssa Bannon kicking the goal to get us back in front. Daisy Pearce kicking 2 goals. Our midfield was really, really solid. Libby Birch great in defence again. She's just a fantastic player to watch. Tyler Hanks is so good through the middle. I really enjoy watching her play as well. And it looks like Daisy Pearce and Karen Paxman can probably go on and play another year next year. They were probably going to anyway. And since we've been able to double up with two AFLW seasons this year, it's going to give those girls another run around, I reckon. So yeah, hopefully they go again. And Pearce was able to kick 2 goals, and she's just so smart around the footy, which was good. Yeah, so last week when I did my predictions, I don't think I actually got any right, which is pretty sad. Let me just move this across. Which was pretty sad, unfortunately. The only one I got right was Fremantle winning. I thought they would get the job done over the Bulldogs, and they did. But in the end, that leaves us with a matchup that I'm really happy with. I'm really happy with the way that we match up against Brisbane, so I think we'll go through and beat them, and I think the Pies should get the job done at the MCG against the Dockers as well. 2 absolutely cracking games of football coming up this weekend. I'm spewing again that I won't be able to watch the game against Brisbane. I'll actually be in Queensland on that day, and I am shattered. I was so hoping that we would be playing the Saturday so I could go and see it. And yeah, I think the Pies will get that done, and that will put us up in a prelim against the Cats, which is, if I'm going to make a choice between playing the Cats, Sydney, the Pies, or Fremantle in a prelim, I'd probably go, probably Freo, then Geelong, then Collingwood, then Sydney at the moment, because yeah, Sydney they would have a lot of confidence after beating us a couple of times this year. So that will lead to a nice prelim replay from last year, hopefully. I expect us to get the job done against Brisbane this week. Like, they're definitely going to throw something different at us. Like, they can't just go ahead and do what they've done the last 3-4 times that we've played them and go head to head, because they know that it gets them beaten by 10 goals. What else can they do? Because they're a soft side. Like, they're not hard at all. Like, as soon as Jack Viney or Clayton Oliver or Christian Petrarca, Tom Sparrow get around them, Stephen May's tough, Michael Hibbard's tough, even Ed Langdon's tough with the way that he runs around the ground. You're going to knock him down, he's just going to get back up. Angus Brayshaw's tough as nails. Like, we're just such a tough side, and like, what are they going to do? Are they going to bring their fake bravado again? Are they going to try and shake us like Sydney did with Buddy? Is that the only thing? Like, we saw Papley get into Harrison Petty's face as well. Is that the only way to unsettle us? Is that the only way they're going to win? Maybe, but yeah, I don't see it happening. I see us ending up against the Cats here, and then yeah, we'll see what happens, because that was an incredible game against the Pies as well, and they just ended up in front towards the end. So anyone could have won that one also. But yeah, that's my thoughts for the week. That's my thoughts on the finals so far. Just quickly, I will just talk about the end of the Richmond-Brisbane game. Man, what's the go with Tom Lynch? Like, he definitely kicked a point. And also the arrogance of him to just whack it on a right foot check side from that position, thinking that he would kick it in such an important game is just diabolical. It's absolute lunacy for him to decide that. He could have gone a right foot drop punt, a left foot drop punt, a left foot like banana, and all of those shot, or like a 2-step banana, and snapped it through. All 4 of those options would have been better than the one that he decided. And he could have taken the time to do it as well, to run out some more clock. And then the ball goes down the other end, and there's 5 Richmond players trying to spoil it in the goal square with not one on the goal line. The one that was on the goal line came up and punched it into Joe Danaher's hands, and he kicked the goal. So it's like, because I've heard them complaining again, like Damien Hardwick's going on about it, and it's like, mate, you lost. Like, I thought it was a point straight away. It went over the post, 100%. Like, I didn't need no arc. It was a point. It has been a point, and that's it. If like, I've not seen any footage that makes me look at it and go, oh yeah, that's a goal. Like, if the post was any higher, it would have hit it 110% in my opinion. Like, I couldn't believe the arrogance of him to not go back and just drill a drop punt. Like, he's a great drop punt kick, Tom Lynch. Like, I hate him. He's one of my most hated players as well, up there with Papley and Zorko. But he has the right skills to do it. So anyway, that's my thoughts about that, because that was a big talking point about the week. So going to wrap it up there. Thanks very much for watching the Dees. I will be dropping another video next week on our game against Brisbane. Hopefully a win. So thank you very much for watching the Dees.
And it's just so special for such our club, mate, our club.
Lastly, after 57 years of pain, it's coming home.